Syncing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it looks like we are live. Okay. So, Darlington, the Cup race. Let's just get right into it. Part 3 of the throwback weekend. And kind of like I have already mentioned in the past too, when talking about the trucks and the Xfinity race, a lot of drivers chose not to race throwback schemes for this race. And when I mean a lot, I mean like a third of the field. You usually see like, 4 or 5 drivers on average not running a throwback scheme, but this year an unusually high number across all 3 racing series. Drivers just choosing not to race throwbacks, which again, like I said, was really disappointing, especially considering the missed opportunities with some drivers. But at least I'm gonna say this: at least the drivers and teams who went for the throwback style, they went like all in with some of the best throwback schemes I have ever seen since the trend started in 2015 for this race. More on that later, though. I'll talk about the throwback schemes themselves in a separate video, so you can be on the lookout for that. But yeah, quality over quantity for sure was the theme of this year, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about that. Like I said, this weekend just didn't have the throwback feel or the aura I felt from the previous years. Even if some of the throwbacks were really amazing, but most of the field not, or rather a big chunk of the field not running throwback schemes. It kind of just, it kind of gets lost in the fact that sometimes I was forgetting that this was a throwback race. But this race also marks the midway point of the regular season. This season has really gone by so fast. Practice and qualifying, they were held on Saturday morning and noon before the Xfinity race. And Michael McDowell was the fastest car in practice, and several of the Fords, they also showed speed on both the short and the long run, with Austin Cindric having the best consecutive 10-lap average. Qualifying went underway, and I mean the Fords, they kept going, even though Tyler Reddick ended up winning the pole, but behind him, Brad Keselowski second, Chris Buescher third. RFK Racing obviously leading the charge for Ford. The most notable of the 4 teams that they showed out. Chris Buescher, he was even third fastest in practice and second fastest on consecutive 10-lap average speed, only behind Austin Cindric in that category. Then behind them, Ty Gibbs fourth, William Byron fifth, Kyle Larson sixth, then Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, and Martin Truex Jr. running out the top 10. Then Kyle Busch in 11th, Christopher Bell in 12th, Chase Briscoe in 13th, Joey Logano in 14th, then Todd Gilliland 15th, Michael McDowell 16th. Again, Front Row Motorsports, another team that really showed speed in practice. Michael McDowell obviously being fastest in practice, and both him and Todd Gilliland being top 5 in consecutive 10-lap average. As a matter of fact, I already mentioned Cindric and Buescher being top 2, McDowell and Gilliland being also top 5. That means that the only non-Ford to be like top 5 in consecutive 10-lap average in practice, it was Larson, and he timed in 3rd in that category. So it was Cindric, Buescher, Larson, and then the Front Row Motorsports duo of McDowell and Todd. They were top 5 in consecutive 10-lap average. 4 Fords in the top 5. Again, they really came out to play this for this race, which was something I really didn't expect, because Darlington is kind of like it's not your typical intermediate track, but it's still an intermediate simply because of the length. And intermediate tracks have been Ford's main weakness this far, all season long thus far. So for them to actually show out at Darlington and show speed and actually compete with the Toyotas, particularly Tyler Reddick, who was pretty much one of looking like one of the guys to beat early on. Yeah, it was really impressive. Ryan Blaney 17th, Daniel Suarez 19th, Ricky Stenhouse 20th, and then Carson Hocevar 21st. I'm just looking down through the field here. Austin Cindric 25th, Ryan Preece 26th, Zane Smith 27th, Justin Haley 28th, Eric Jones 30th. His first race back in the 43 car since Talladega 2 weeks ago. If you remember, he injured his back and had to be replaced for those 2 races by Corey Heim. He was actually given the good to go on before the weekend at Kansas, but he decided to sit that race out as well, just so he could be 100% for Darlington. Honestly, a pretty good call. Then Chase Elliott 31st, starting deep in the field, which honestly was pretty shocking for me to see. Just Chase Elliott qualifying this low. Then Derek Krause 32nd, Josh Berry 33rd, and Noah Gragson dead last in 36th. As good as the Fords were leading up to this race, that was not the case for Stewart-Haas Racing. The only car to qualify in the top 15 was Chase Briscoe. His other 3 teammates qualified outside the top 25, and Gragson will qualify dead last, and he will start dead last, as no cars were sent to the rear for unapproved adjustments or whatever. So we go to stage 1. The race begins, and Tyler Reddick leads with Keselowski stays second, and Chris Buescher falling to 5th after getting passed by Ty Gibbs and Kyle Larson. The only notable thing about this early on was Chastain scrubbing the wall early on lap 3 after locking up the left front tire entering turn 3. He loses a couple spots. He was running 10th, but he fell down to 15th. As the stage goes on, Keselowski, Larson, and Ty Gibbs, they start catching Reddick and just closing the gap on Reddick, just as green flag pit stops begin on lap 35. Ryan Preece and Harrison Burton, they start the cycle, and this slowly starts bringing everyone down pit road. McDowell and Cindric, they pitted the next lap, and then Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Corey LaJoie, Chase Elliott, Daniel Hemrick, and then a lap after that, the leaders, this broke the leaders, and they came down: Larson, Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, Reddick, Buescher, Byron, Truex, Gilliland, Christopher Bell, Logano, Chastain. Kyle Larson had a bit of a slow stop after sliding on his pit stall and just slightly overshooting it, causing him to back up, forcing him to back up a little bit, and then cycle back behind Ty Gibbs and William Byron. He didn't lose that much time though, just like a 2 second longer pit stop. So only Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse, and Austin Dillon ended up staying out a bit longer, just to take advantage of fresh rubber late at the very end of the long green flag run. Assuming the stage obviously ended on a long green flag run, which it obviously did. Stage 1 just went green the whole way. But yeah, Bubba, Blaney, Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, they all ended up pitting by lap 45, effectively splitting the stage in half, completing the cycle and handing the lead over to Ty Gibbs, with William Byron second, and Kyle Larson, despite having a slow pit stop. Again, it was only like a slow pit stop by 2 seconds compared to Ty Gibbs and Byron's. Larson was still in contention, third, despite having a slow stop. And then Keselowski 4th, Reddick 5th, and Buescher 6th. Again, that's the advantage of pitting early on in the cycle. Ty Gibbs, William Byron, Kyle Larson, they all pitted before Keselowski, Reddick, and Buescher, although they would end up paying the price towards the end of that run. Since Keselowski, Reddick, and Buescher, they will be better in the long run towards the end of the stage. Lap traffic started to become a factor after green flag pit stops, as Ty Gibbs, he started struggling to get by the lap cars that were just racing hard to stay on the lead lap. I do believe he squeezed some of them into the wall, most notably Daniel Suarez. And this briefly brought Byron and Larson into the fold, but after clearing past the lap traffic, the guys behind him, they had to deal with it, which allowed for the 54 to once again build a gap. Eventually reaching upwards to 2.5 seconds over now second place Kyle Larson. who in the midst of all that chaos, he had managed to pass William Byron. But as soon as the lap traffic is dealt with and there is a clean track ahead of him, Larson starts cutting into the 54's lead. Ty Gibbs scrubbing the wall at least like 3 or 4 times after taking the lead. That certainly did not help. Well, it certainly did help for Larson. It didn't help for Ty Gibbs. But yeah, by the time Larson is onto his back bumper, the 54 has just nothing for him. The 5 car takes the lead as Ty Gibbs just slides in turns 3 and 4. And then he immediately starts pulling away, cruising to the Stage 1 win by 5 seconds over the second place car. He could have extended the lead more, but instead he decided to, lay back as his teammate Chase Elliott was in front of him in 26, and putting him a lap down would have put the 9 team in a top spot. So, Larson wins the stage, and Ty Gibbs, he barely holds on to second after dealing with a loose race car towards the end of the stage. He just had no rubber. His tires were just worn out towards the end of that run. So Keselowski third, he just narrowly losing out on second place with a 54. Then Tyler Reddick fourth, Martin Truex fifth, Todd Gilliland sixth, Chris Buescher seventh, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, and Bubba Wallace in 10th. Denny Hamlin, he finishes 11th. Big surprise. He did not score stage points. This is only the 5th time he has failed to finish top 10 in a stage at Darlington since its introduction in 2017. He has failed to score stage points on a stage at Darlington only the 5th time in his career, and this is the 8th year that NASCAR is with this stage racing stuff. That's honestly pretty impressive. Just goes to show you how amazing Hamlin has been at this track. So anyways, we go to pit road. The leaders pit, and Reddick just narrowly wins the race of pit road over Brad Keselowski and Ty Gibbs. Larson falls to 4th, Logano moves up to 8th, and Buescher drops to 10th, and Todd Gilliland drops to 12th. And Daniel Hemrick gets penalized for pitting while the pits were not open yet. According to the broadcast, he was like struggling with power steering. His power steering just went out towards the end of that first stage, so honestly, really tough break for him. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the reason why he came down pit road, if the team was just trying to fix it. But yeah, he would just go without power steering for the rest of the race. And no power steering at Darlington, it's not fun, let me tell you that. We go to stage 2. Reddick is back in the lead, with Ty Gibbs taking second away from Brad Keselowski. We do have some incidents in this green flag run. The first one of which is Kyle Busch scrubbing the wall in turn 2, losing a couple of spots. He was already run outside the top 22. So just a difficult day for Kyle Busch overall. Us Kyle Busch fans would just rather forget about this race, just take it and move on. And then several laps later, John Hunter Nemechek gets loose in turn 4 and spins, bringing out the caution. He has 2 tires flat, but he's able to make it back to pit road under his own power. But by the time he reaches pit road, his car just stalls out and he has to get towed the rest of the way, which extended this yellow quite a little bit. Eventually, when the pits were open, obviously the pits were closed, so that's why the yellow flag was extended, because drivers obviously wanted to pit. But the moment the pits were open, the leaders pitted, everyone pitted. Tyler Reddick won the race of pit road over Ty Gibbs, Keselowski, and Martin Truex. And then on the restart, William Byron, he takes Truex and Ryan Blaney 3 wide for 4th. Truex, he lives to avoid being in a 3 wide middle situation in turns 1 and 2. But the moment he lifts, he gets loose, drifts up the track, and collides Ryan Blaney, putting him in the wall, just made contact with him. Truex also ended up hitting the 12 in the rear after he got shoved by Buescher, so all 3 cars with damage. Blaney in particular with damage to the right rear toe link. Larson also with some contact during that scramble. Looks like he and Bubba Wallace made contact trying to avoid the chaos in front of them. Hamlin was also reporting some front end damage. So all in all, you had like 6 cars with some sort of contact in that on that restart. But yeah, the caution came out, and Blaney was put under the DVP, which unfortunately he was unable to beat. So he DNFs after being unable to repair the damage on time. But not before showing his displeasure to Byron on the track. So as Moonhead would say, we got beef. And this would not be the first instance of beef at Darlington, or even the most notable. Oh, trust me. There was another beef that happened later on in the race that was just pretty much the talk of the race. But if you guys watch the race, you guys already know what I'm talking about, but we'll get there when we get there. So, we got another restart, and this time it's a cleaner restart. Reddick continues to lead over Ty Gibbs and Keselowski, and some drivers come alive into the top 10 on this run. Joe Logano moves up to 6th, and Josh Berry moves up to 8th. Obviously, that Ryan Blaney caution shook up the running order quite a little bit. But yeah, Logano and Josh Berry, the biggest beneficiaries, being able to take advantage of the restarts to gain some track position and get into the top 10. Then we have a caution. Zane Smith gets loose off of turn 4. Similar thing to what happened with John Hunter Nemechek. He spins out and crashes on the inside wall. He is able to fire it back up despite the damage, but with his tires flattened, he has to be towed back to pit road. Again, just like the 42 before him. However, the team is unable to repair the damage, and he ends up with another DNF. Unfortunate, his disaster season still continues, and now with the announcement that he's not going to be returning to Spire Motorsports next season. Not even only 1/3 through the year, and Zane Smith already lost his right for 2025. Like that's a big oof. That's really gonna hurt. So anyways, we go to pit road, and Tyler Reddick once again, he narrowly wins the race of pit road over Ty Gibbs and Brad Keselowski. They were 3 wide coming off pit road too. Like, that's just the number 1 pit stall right there. That's the importance of that number 1 pit stall, especially at Darlington, where after, if you got the number 1 pit stall, all you have to do is just accelerate a little bit, and there it is. You just went past, you just exited pit road. Like that said. It's just literally by the exit, which is why that number 1 pit box at Darlington is just so it's just so OP, I'm gonna guess. But yeah, Logano also moved up to 4th, and Larson dropped to 6th on this exchange. And then we have another restart. Keselowski has a much better restart this time, staying side by side with Reddick for about a lap and a half before the 45 clears ahead on the top eventually, and he pulls away to win stage 2. Keselowski stays 2nd, Ty Gibbs 3rd, Joe Logano 4th, Kyle Larson 5th, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, and Ross Chastain round out the top 10. And then we go to pit road. The leaders pit, once again. This was only like a 15 to 20 lap green flag run, but obviously with Darlington being a track that chews up tires like crazy, you always want to have fresh tires. So the leaders pit. Tyler Reddick once again wins the race of pit road narrowly over Keselowski, despite the 6 teams' best efforts to beat the 45. There's not much you can do against a guy who just has the number 1 pit stall. So yeah, William Byron up to 3rd, Ty Gibbs down to 6th, Bubba Wallace moves up to 7th, Chris Buescher moves down to 9th. Chase Elliott has a slow stop after an issue changing the right side tires. He loses 10 spots. He was 16th entering pit road. He obviously finished 16th in stage 2. He came back 26th. So all of the work that he got done throughout the first 2 stages to at the very least run decently mid-pack, yeah, that work is gone now. So now we go to stage 3. Tyler Reddick is once again clears ahead and defends the lead as Keselowski is challenged for 2nd by William Byron and Kyle Larson. He almost gets put in a 3-wide situation, but he eventually prevails and holds them off. That being said, this situation that Keselowski was put in allowed Reddick to pull away to a 2-second lead. But as laps go on and he starts dealing with lap traffic, Keselowski catches him and passes him for the lead. just as green flag pit stops begin. And it is really interesting as we see different agendas here. Some drivers electing for a two-stop strategy while others elect to stay out and split the stage in half, pit a little bit longer, wait a little bit longer to pit. Kyle Busch starts the cycle, and then Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, and Martin Truex follow suit. And this eventually brings some of the top 10 guys into pit road as well, in Chris Buescher and Ty Gibbs. And then a few laps later, Kyle Larson hits the wall hard off of turn 2, and his team decides to bring him down pit road out of fear that he may have, a flat tire. That was a great damage control there. And this is the moment that brought everyone else down pit road. Like, the moment Larson came down pit road, it's like almost every single team threw out their agendas, and they decided, yeah, we'll do what the 5 is going to do. We cannot let Larson gain ground on us on fresh tires. So Keselowski, Reddick, Byron, Logano, McDowell, Corey LaJoie, Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Noah Gragson, Daniel Hemrick, Jeff Burton, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, all of these guys pit. Just inside the pit window too. Like I said, you can tell a lot of plans were shaken out by Larson pitting after, hitting the wall. In the end, only Carson Hocevar and Daniel Suarez stay out longer, but they both get passed on the track by the time they pit, cycling the lead back to Brad Keselowski, who is only 0.4 of a second ahead of Tyler Reddick. When green flag pit stops began, Keselowski had pulled away to like a 1.5, almost 2 second lead over Reddick. He cycled back only 0.4 of a second ahead of him, with Ty Gibbs third on 8-lap older tires, however. So Keselowski and Reddick, who got pitted a few laps later, they had slightly fresher tires. They were pulling away from Ty Gibbs. We got some incidents on this run. Kyle Busch, most notably Kyle Busch, he goes up the hill in turn 2. He gets tight and hits the wall hard. He was running 11th and he lost a bunch of spots, and he eventually had to pit again. So an unscheduled stop that dropped him below the top 30. Really unfortunate, but yeah. And then a few laps after that, the caution comes out for Kyle Larson spinning out in turn 3 and backing it into the wall after blowing a left rear tire. And this is something that the broadcast, pointed out. All weekend long, the tire that was wearing out the most, it was not the right front like you would usually see at oval tracks, but it was the left rear instead. With that being said, you gotta remember, Larson, he had a right rear toe link bend after hitting the wall hard off of turn 2 a couple laps ago, shortly before pitting. So you gotta wonder if that bent toe link played a part. If that bent toe link on the right rear played a part in the left rear tire blowing out. Again, nothing was confirmed. Just speculating or just trying to make sense of how the left rear tire could have blown up. It probably was due to tire wear, probably, but again, Larson had just recently pitted, and that tire was not close to being worn out yet. So it wouldn't surprise me if the toe link being bent probably played a part. But yeah, that's a DNF. Really unfortunate for Larson because, like I said, he was one of the fastest cars. He was, in my opinion, the best Chevy. And now that I think about it, Chevy looked really weak because you obviously had the RFK Fords and then Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs for Toyota. Also Martin Truex Jr. at the start of the race before he got the incident with Blaney. But yeah, RFK, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs. This was a Ford and Toyota weekend. Chevy was just a little step behind. But yeah, the only exception was Larson. Larson was the only Chevy that was consistently running top 5, and he even won a stage. So DNF due to that. The pit road, this is the money stop pretty much with so few laps to go. The leaders pit, and once again, that number 1 pit stall is too OP. Tyler Reddick wins the race of pit road, again, narrowly over Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and Ty Gibbs, and Logano gets a speeding penalty, and he will restart at the rear. And at this point, honestly, at this point, I just about had it because, leading up into this race, and you guys already know how, and you guys, you guys may be tired of hearing this from me, but I'm gonna remind you, Ford is 0 for 32 across all three national series, entering this Darlington Sunday Cup race, and for Keselowski and the whole RFK Racing bunch, for them to do everything right, only to lose due to the fact that they didn't get the pole. They started in the front row alongside Reddick. They qualified second, but the guy that won the pole, Tyler Reddick, got the number one pit stall. And despite all of the lightning fast pit stops that the 6 team has put together, they just cannot beat that Tyler Reddick and his number one pit stall. Like, Ford, they just did everything right up until this point, and it still was just not enough for them to take the win away. Like, I really thought they were gonna go winless. If they went winless, it would just be pretty fitting, because it would just be another way Ford has found to lose this race. But on the restart, this is when things really turned up. This is where the race really turned up to 11. It's go time. And this time, Keselowski, it looks like he heard me. It looks like he heard my prayers of, yeah, we need a Ford win today. Because he just was holding nothing back on Tyler Reddick on the restart. He raced them hard, side by side, crowding him way to the outside lane. It's obviously still not enough because, Keselowski is on the bottom, which is not ideal. It wears your tires down faster. While Tyler Reddick, he is on the top, which is the better lane, and it's his preferred lane as well. With that being said, Keselowski, he keeps the side draft. The side draft that he gives Tyler Reddick, that he gets from Tyler Reddick, he obviously keeps him in the game. And then also Buescher coming in and giving him a shove, to try and clear him, but it's still not enough. And then the very next lap, or it could have been like, a lap or two later, Keselowski crowds Reddick a little too much up of turn 4. They door each other in the process, and this slows them down considerably. And Buescher, who was still behind them, he dives down low. He makes his move. He dives down low and takes the lead with a 3-wide pass. And now, with Buescher leading and Keselowski third, I was just like, could this be it? Because this was such a roller coaster of a weekend. You guys gotta remember, the truck race at Darlington, Ty Majeski was leading, and then a late caution, the race got into overtime, and he ended up losing the race despite him and Jake Garcia being in the front. They both almost wrecked each other out on the restart, and Majeski ended up losing the race. Then on Saturday, Cole Custer, he started on the pole. And on the very first pit stop, he has an air gun failure. He loses a lot of track position, and he doesn't make it all the way to the front until like the final green flag run of the race. But by then, it was just really too late. He finished third, but I just feel if he would have, if he didn't have that air gun issue and he stayed up front the entire race, he would have definitely challenged Allgaier for the win. So it was definitely a roller coaster of a weekend. I thought Majeski had the race on lock until he didn't. Then I thought Cole Custer could make something happen until he didn't. And now I'm like, I'm getting my hopes up once again with Chris Buescher now leading this race. Could this finally be Ford's first win of 2024? Well, it's not over yet, because it can never come too easy. So as the laps wind down, Tyler Reddick, he closes in on Buescher, forcing the 17 to play defense and block his preferred lane. And this forces the 45 to use the bottom a little more and use up his tires more, which allows Keselowski to close in as well. And on the final laps, with 10 laps to go, it's pretty clear, a 3-horse battle for the win between Tyler Reddick and the 2 RFK cars. And with 7 laps to go, Tyler Reddick makes his move, sending it into turn 3 on the bottom, but he is not clear, obviously. It was just, that was a little bit too bold of a move, and he ends up putting himself and Buescher into the wall hard. Both drivers end up with flat tires. They have to pit. And this gives the lead back to Keselowski, who manages to hold off Ty Gibbs the rest of the way and finally bring Ford their first ever win of 2024. And when I tell you, as a Ford fan, because, my favorite manufacturer is Ford, let me tell you, as a Ford fan, I was going through through the grinder. I was going through a roller coaster of emotions. I thought Buescher had the race on lock, and then I saw Tyler Reddick closing in, and then Reddick putting Buescher in the wall. And then me thinking that the race was over for Buescher, and it was. But then I realized that the contact also gave Reddick a flat tire, so Keselowski swooped in and took the lead. But then I saw Ty Gibbs starting to close in a little bit, and I realized, oh no way. Ty Gibbs is this how Ty Gibbs scores his first career win, by stealing it away from Ford? But fortunately, as much as I think, Ty Gibbs is going to win a race, this was one race I did not want him to win. This was Ford's race to lose. It was about damn time Ford won. And eventually Keselowski held him off, and, this is the happiest I have ever been with a Brad Keselowski win. This is the first win for the Dark Horse Mustang this season. With this win, Keselowski has also snapped a 110 race winless streak. 3-year winless streak since Talladega of 2021, which was his last win with Penske. But most importantly, this is Keselowski's first ever win as an owner driver, and his first win with RFK Racing. The work that he has put in over the last 3 years to rebuild that organization back to prominence, it has been outstanding. He deserves every bit of it. So finally, 33 races into the season, counting Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, the drought is over. Ford has finally won a race, and in the process, Keselowski steals the win that Reddick took away from him at Talladega. Once again, Michael Jordan's team and LeBron James' teams, they clash once again. Because if you know, for those of you guys who do not know, you guys obviously know about Michael Jordan and 2311, but for LeBron James, it's a bit more complicated because he's not technically an owner of RFK Racing, but since he has an ownership stake on Fenway Sports Group, like he has invested in Fenway Sports Group, and since Fenway has a stake in RFK Racing, I don't know if it's still 50%. It may have changed with Keselowski's incorporation, but Fenway Sports Group, they are still involved as part of RFK Racing, obviously. So if you do the math, you could say that Fenway. Let's assume that Fenway Sports Group, they still own like 50% of RFK Racing. Obviously, I have not been paying attention to that, but let's assume it's still 50%. And LeBron owns like 10% of Fenway Sports Group, which is what I remember from what I've read up on that. If you do the math, that technically means that LeBron James owns like a 2% of RFK Racing. And he has tweeted about RFK Racing in the past, and even Chris Buescher. I remember back in Michigan in 2022, he ran that paint scheme of the LeBron James Family Foundation. So yeah, LeBron is... It pretty much confirms that LeBron is involved in RFK Racing in some capacity. Obviously not to the degree that Michael Jordan is, because Jordan is a majority owner. LeBron is a minority owner at best. That's what it will make him. But yeah, 2311, Jordan, RFK Racing, LeBron is the GOAT debate, NBA edition. The two of them have clashed. Jordan stole a win from LeBron at Talladega, but LeBron came back and stole the win away from Jordan at Darlington. So, Let's see. Yeah, let's go back through let's go down through the finishing results because there's a lot of great storylines. Um, if you think Keselowski winning this race was the only great story here, just check this out. Ty Gibbs finished second. He sets a new career best finish, and he ran top five all race long too. So shout out to him. Josh Berry third. Josh Berry finished third. Wow. I just had to do a double take on that because holy shit. His first top five finish of the season. This is also his first top five finish with Stewart Haas as well. But yeah, Josh Berry third. I was definitely surprised. His car just came to life in stage two, and while he did he score any stage points? No, he didn't score any stage points. But yeah, he managed to. His car just came to life in the second half of the race, and yeah, again, Darlington is a track that really suits his racing style really well. About high wear, tire management. It pretty much goes right in. It pretty much plays into Barry's strengths. Him being obviously a late model racer. Then Denny Hamlin fourth. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, he managed to keep his streak of consecutive races with at least a lap led. He managed to keep the streak alive. He led one lap, but that was during green flag pit stops, obviously. But that was just enough for him to keep the streak alive. So now it's 17 races in a row, dating back to Las Vegas of the fall of 2023. So yeah, ever since then, Hamlin has always led at least one lap on every race. It just makes you wonder, how many bonus points will Hamlin have? If bonus points for leading a lap were still a thing, how many points will Hamlin have, or how close to the points lead will he be? Because holy shit, man. Chase Briscoe finishes fifth. So if you're counting at home, Stewart-Haas Racing finishes third and fifth after having 3/4 of their team start deep in the field. A poor qualifying session for them, but they turned it into one of without a doubt, their strongest day of the season so far. Like the strongest race as a team of the season overall. Josh Berry third, Chase Briscoe fifth. Then William Byron sixth, Bubba Wallace seventh, Alex Bowman eighth, Justin Haley ninth. And this is on speed, by the way. He took a Rick Ware Racing car to finish top 10 on speed. No strategy, no nothing. The guy just clawed his wake, and I believe Justin Haley, he started outside the top 25 too, so he started outside the top 25 and he wheeled that Rick Ware Racing car all the way to a top 10. That's awesome, honestly. And running out the top 10 is Michael McDowell. So if you're counting at home, that's 5 Fords in the top 10. Keselowski, Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Justin Haley, Michael McDowell. 5 Fords in the top 10. So it wasn't just RFK Racing, as you can see. Stewart-Haas Racing, Front Row, and even Rick Ware Racing, they showed up in the top 10. This was Ford's, without a doubt, Ford's strongest race, especially considering that, intermediate tracks aren't their forte with this new Dark Horse Mustang especially. So the fact that they just showed up and showed out at Darlington, that was just amazing. It just amazes me. They deserved this win all throughout. And not just the win, like all of the solid days that they had. Like you look at Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Justin Haley, Michael McDowell. Man, all of these guys, they had really strong days. Shout out to Ford, man. They finally put a complete race together. And they finally closed out the deal because unlike what happened at Talladega. So yeah. Let's go down. Ross Chastain 11th. Chase Elliott 12th. After starting deep in the field and just struggling to advance and also having, a slow pit stop after stage 2, he manages to salvage a decent result out of an otherwise difficult day. A solid top 15 for him. Christopher Bell 13th. he was pretty much in the same boat as Chase Elliott. As a matter of fact, for several parts of the race, Christopher Bell was running way worse than Chase Elliott. I think I saw him run worse than 30th throughout some parts of the race. So the fact that he finished 13th is a miracle in and of itself. Noah Gragson finished 14th after starting dead last, by the way. So that's 3 Stewart-Haas racing cars that finished top 15. Then Todd Gilliland 15th. He stayed in the top 15 all day, and he even got some stage points to boot. So once again, another strong day, just another Ford with a relatively strong day. Then Corey LaJoie 16th. Shout out to him for a pretty solid result. Ryan Preece 17th. So all 4 Stewart-Haas racing cars finished in the top 20. A very positive day for that team. And right behind him, you got the other Rick Ware racing car, Kaz Grala, who finished 18th. Just like Stewart-Haas Racing, a very positive day for Rick Ware Racing as well, putting both of their cars in the top 20. Then Eric Jones 19, on his first race back after missing 2 races due to injury. He managed to put together a solid top 20 finish. And then Austin Cindric 20th. And Joey Logano 21st right behind him. As great as Ford was overall, Penske was not among those teams. And I was honestly... This is seriously shocking because so far with this Gen 7 car, Penske has always been like their best, the best Ford team, specifically Logano and Blaney. Obviously, we know what happened to Blaney, but as for Logano, he had a top 10 car all race long after stage 2, obviously, until he sped on his final pit stop and lost all of his track position. I don't know if I mentioned that, but Logano got a speeding penalty on his final pit stop. And he lost all of his track position and he just could never recover. Daniel Suarez 24th. Yeah, another underwhelming finish for him. I believe that makes 6 out of the last 8 races where he has finished outside the top 20. Yeah, and Chastain is not doing too hot either because he only has 4 top 10s in the first 13 races. So, yeah, Trackhouse has been low-key disappointing this season. Really surprising to see. Yeah, Truex 25th. He just never recovered after the incident with Blaney early in stage 2. He had some major front end damage that it clearly affected him, affected the handling of the car. Then Kyle Busch 27th. Like I said, he hit the wall late in the race and he just had to make an unscheduled pit stop. And this was before the final caution of the race, so he was trapped a lap down. He did take the wave around. To at the very least finish on the lead lap, but because his tires were already worn out and he wasn't pitting again because, you know, rather take the wave around in that situation, because of that he just could not, you know, advance his position against guys with fresher tires. Austin Dillon right behind him in 28th, just another bad result. It has been a very dismal year for him. Derek Krause 29th. He was running the 16th. Another race in the 16th for him and Colleague Racing. And Chris Buescher 30th. Tyler Reddick 32nd. This too did have a confrontation after the race, but I would talk about it on a separate video. But yeah, after both of them just, you know, they're running together, competing for the win. Both of them get flat tires out of it, and they both end up pitting, losing all chances of a good finish. Buescher finished 30th, Tyler Reddick 32nd. I think, now that I think about it, I think the broadcast mentioned that Reddick, you know, he also got a penalty on top of that because he was pitting outside his box. Like the front end of his car was outside his pit box. So yeah, and that explains why Reddick finished 32nd instead of 30th. Okay. Daniel Hemrick finished 33rd. Like I said, he lost power steering midway through stage 1. That pretty much sums up his race. And then Kyle Larson 34th after, you know, crashing out late. And finally Zane Smith 35th and Ryan Blaney 36th. So, man, NASCAR has been on a hot streak as far as exciting races this season. Daytona 500, obviously a lot of people are going to say the finish was controversial, but those final 10 laps were awesome. Were awesome to watch. Atlanta, just that entire race from start to finish was just a treat to watch. Bristol with the extreme tire wear, Talladega, Kansas with last week, and now Darlington. That's 6 out of 13 races so far. Sure, there have been some stinkers like Phoenix, Richmond, and Martinsville, but so far, this season has been more hit than miss. And again, Darlington always puts on a show. This was the best race of the weekend, in my opinion. Although you can make an argument for the truck race, it was definitely better than the Xfinity race, without a doubt. Even with theoretically, those laps and pit road, the number one pit stall being too OP, there was always something happening somewhere on the track. So there was always some action, and there were also like comers and goers in the top 10. In the top 10, you had Todd Gilliland, Ryan Blaney, Truex, Josh Berry, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin. Just again, a several mix of comers and goers. And the finish was pretty good. Too. The finish, honestly, it bumps the grade up quite a little bit. If it wasn't for that great finish, between Reddick, Buescher, and Keselowski, I would have given this race like a B or a B plus. But because of the great finish and the fact that I'm feeling generous because a Ford finally won, I'm gonna give this race an A minus. That was a great race with a very feel-good winner in the end. And of course, who else but Brad Keselowski is the driver of the race? With the winless streak the Ford was on, whoever snapped that streak will automatically win driver of the day. The fact that it was Keselowski is just an added bonus because he also has the storyline of that being his first win with RFK Racing, and also the fact that it snapped a long winless streak for him. That being said, I'm gonna give some honorable mentions. Josh Berry, his first top 5 finish with Stewart-Haas Racing at a track that, like I said, it honestly suits his driving style perfectly. And this coming off the heels of a poor qualifying session too. I believe he qualified outside the top 30, so he clawed his way all the way back to finish 3rd and scored in the process his first career top 5 with Stewart-Haas Racing and with that 4 car. So yeah, honorable mention to Josh Berry and also Justin Haley. I also want to give a shout out to Justin Haley. First top 10 finish for Requa Racing on a non-super speedway, and he did it on speed 2. No strategy, no fuel mileage. The guy just clawed his way up through the field in old school Darlington fashion, similar to Josh Berry. Oh man, Ford is so back. After such a roller coaster of a weekend where I thought that Ford would go winless despite being competitive for all 3 races, one bullet finally struck, and Brad Keselowski, I have prayed for times like this, moments like this. I want to thank Brad Keselowski for, putting an end to the dark days of Ford. Hopefully this is not the only win for Ford. Hopefully this is just, the start of their renaissance with that new Dark Horse car. Because this is the first race where I feel the Dark Horse Mustang, they really showed their muscle. I feel like the Ford camp, they're finally starting to figure out the Dark Horse Mustang. And, better late than never, obviously. So yeah, this is going to be a really busy week for me as well. Because, like I said, I'm going to post my video on the Reddick and Buescher situation on a separate video. I just felt like I didn't want to, extend this video more than it was already. So I'm going to post my thoughts on that on a separate video. The throwback schemes, ranking all of the throwback schemes for all 3 series. I'm also going to do a separate video on that. So yeah, you can expect those videos over the course of the week. And yeah. Next up is the All-Star race. Nice little break to have from all of the action. Not for me though, because I'm still gonna be talking about the All Star race. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, what a race, man! What a race.